As every class is starting to come out with their full BIS list for Phase 2 and Uldaur, you might have noticed that almost every single piece of loot for the BIS list is coming from mostly 25-man hard mode versions of the bosses. And this is because it was buffed all the way up to 252 eye level, which is such a significant buff over all the normal mode items, which are actually only 232 eye level. This means a lot of Phase 2 BIS lists look something more like this, where every item is a hard mode item from 252 hard mode bosses, a lot of them from Algalon as well, feels bad for mages, but most class BIS lists are looking like this, with only one or two sprinkled in 232 items, which is mostly going to be things like tier gear just to proc a set bonus. But all of those pieces are actually 20 eye level lower than the other alternatives in each of those slots. Mainly this means a lot of BIS lists that are coming out right now really don't include your tier gear, which is kind of crazy to think about because traditionally in Wrath of the Lich King, Uldaur in Phase 2 has some of the best tier sets for pretty much every class. But now because the hard mode loot was buffed so much, there's a lot of times where you're no longer gonna be actually using your tier pieces. You're gonna opt for some offset pieces that will give you more of a DPS increase. Now, because of this, a lot of people were wondering if Blizzard was actually looking to increase the eye level of tier pieces. This is because tier pieces, again, are 20 eye level less than those hard mode loot items. And people were wondering if they were gonna be able to actually use those tier pieces throughout the phase. And as they're returning from the holiday vacation, Blizzard is already on top of letting us know about this. So Agron has actually opened the floodgates with communication, telling us that they actually do not plan on buffing the eye level of this gear. So the normal mode gear is not getting planned to still see any more buffs. So that means all of your tier pieces and normal 25-man bosses are gonna drop 232 eye level pieces. And there's a very clear reason behind this. And that's that the hard modes are actually legitimately hard. I did do a tier list on how hard all of the hard modes are and which ones you should focus on the channel, so you guys can check that out. But most guilds won't clear all of the hard modes week 1. And not even all guilds will clear the entire raid. Most guilds won't be able to down Algalon week 1. I'd wager something like less than 1% of guilds realistically will kill Algalon week 1. Now on top of that, Uldaur was not itemized the same as Trial of Crusader and ICC with heroics and other things like that, mainly because during a heroic boss, you're seeing all of the loot turn to heroic difficulty of that loot table. But in hard modes, the loot table is very, very finite, and you actually only get one piece of extra loot per boss. So one piece of item level 252 loot per every single boss. And again, these items are so good that everyone is trying to get them for all of their BIS lists. So you're now fighting against 25 other people for one item off of every single boss. Not to mention that it actually calculates to getting your 252 full BIS list, taking your entire raid 33 weeks. This is assuming that there is 0 waste items and that no items are going to be disenchanted. And to put that into perspective, that's 7.5 months. You would actually need to wait 7.5 months with perfect drops to have your entire raid decked out in full hard mode loot. So this loot is going to be ridiculously coveted, ridiculously sought after, and if you're in a GDKP, ridiculously expensive. Now he goes on to let us know that the 252 very coveted and cherished loot pieces are kind of something that's very classic in the sense of a classic version of World of Warcraft, where you actually have the chase for these items. You'll be seeking them for weeks, for months, and each piece you get for the raid is gonna make the raid that much easier so you can continue clearing the hard modes each and every week or progressing through the raid and adding more hard modes under your belt. So yes, this loot is gonna be relevant for an extremely long time and it's gonna be very, very hard to get. And no, we are not seeing eye level buffs of tier gear, as well as not seeing eye level buffs even further of the normal mode gear. But still, that does not mean you should not focus on it. I really, look at me. I want to express this wholeheartedly. Get all of the gear upgrades you can. Slurp up every single piece of tier because it will deck out your character significantly more than what you have already, and it will make you do so much more damage. Instead of only focusing on getting the bis drops from a boss like Algalon, or focusing on only getting those 252 items from just the normal hard modes. Because it's gonna take you a long time, and you're gonna see other people in full tier gear and full Uldaur gear doing way more damage than you early on until you have all of this crazy loot. So do not sleep on the tier sets. Do not sleep on all of the normal upgrades you can get. You don't have to focus on just getting the absolute Gigabyss. Thank you again to Agran for actually giving us this information and explaining the thought process behind why they're making these choices. It was really helpful for the community in general to understand why the Blizzard devs are making certain decisions when we move into the later phases or into everything they do in WoW Classic. And if you want to see Biss lists for all of your classes, just come and check me out on Twitch, or I will have a link to it in my Discord, as well as I'll try to have quick videos breaking down the Biss list for every class coming soon TM. Anyways, guys, I'll see you all on the next one. Have a good one and good luck out there.